Lauren Ryan, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So for the people that follow you, they'll know that you've been in multiple countries over the past week. Take me through the crazy travel schedule of a
Yes.
high class professional runner.
Yeah, my last week has definitely been very hectic but exciting at the same time. I guess it started off racing at the Prefontaine Diamond League out in Eugene, Oregon. That was my first time competing at Hayward Field. I never made an NCAA nationals, so for me, racing at Hayward Field has always been a bucket list race and destination I've always wanted to compete at. So yeah, my travels sort of started there, headed out 2 days before the race there on Saturday. And then on Monday, I flew from there out to Oslo, Norway for the Oslo Diamond League. Then from there, I raced there. I was there probably less than 48 hours going into the race. And then I think I got back from the hotel at like 11 p.m. It was like a late race. Got back at 11 p.m. and then was back at the airport at 5 a.m. back to the US. So very hectic, but for me, yeah, it was very exciting to be continually to race on the Diamond League circuit. I think last year I raced my first Diamond League in Poland, and I think now how my season journey has changed a lot. It's exciting to be sort of a regular on that Diamond League circuit. And yeah, that's my last week of travels, I guess. Very hectic, but yeah, very exciting and lots of fun things.
For you, on those days of travel, like you go to bed at 11, you get back at 11, you leave at 5. It's a long flight back to the US. Are you running on those days? Are you taking those days off? Like, I'm so curious. How do you fit in runs? And if you do run at all, how bad are you feeling off of like little sleep, time zone change, all of that?
It really depends. So sometimes I will try and book my flights later in the day. The reason I flew on Monday to Oslo rather than Sunday is because I am not very good at the whole race and then got on a flight the next day for travel. I never book a flight before 1 p.m., no matter where I am, because I know it'll be a struggle for me to get to the airport. So for me, after the Prefontaine Diamond League, I did do a quick short run for like 30 minutes on the Monday and then went straight back home, showered, and then to the airport. But after Oslo, yeah, definitely no run going to the airport at 5 a.m. It was just a bit of a longer cool down and then get on the flight, get back. And then I arrived here at 11:45 a.m. So I was lucky that we were going back in time. So I didn't really lose the whole day of running. I was able to get a run in the afternoon, but it's definitely just more a recovery run and listen to your body, how you feel. And I think that's a big thing that my coach has been able to understand is just that travel for me personally takes a lot out of me. So it's more just listening to my body rather than trying to push through it and, kind of fight that fatigue. I think it's more important to listen to your body and recover for longevity in the season as well.
What are Lauren Ryan's like travel day essentials? And as a fan of Under Armour shoes, I'm curious, what are the go-to Under Armour kicks for a travel day?
Travel day shoes for Under Armour, definitely the apparitions. They're new, and I just got a pair. They're like white, kind of like not like cotton. They're like kind of like a fuzzy material. So they're my go-to travel day shoes, and then travel day essentials. Essentia water. I just happen to have this sitting here. Essentia water one, silk eye mask, like for sleeping, my AirPods, passport always, and definitely some sort of candy.
Okay.
When I'm traveling to the US, I always get the Haribo twin snakes. They're like my
Okay.
go-to nerd clusters.
Yeah. Both of those are really good. I really like both of those. I'm like
Yes.
definitely I like chocolate, but there's still a little boy in me that likes like the just overly sugary. Your
Yes.
teeth feel weird after eating them. You're like, I don't know if I should have eaten that. Dentists will not be happy.
I know I always get told when I'm eating the nerd clusters, they're like the worst possible candy for you, but they're my go-to. So
Hey, you're running faster than ever. So I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. That might be
I
your good luck
know.
charm. You mentioned the eye mask. I'm curious. Can you sleep on planes? I know a lot of people can. Maybe it's just a Dominic thing. I like try to. I struggle to. How do you go to sleep on planes?
It depends. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. After going to Oslo, I had a whole row and I thought I was getting a lot of sleep laying down, but I feel like I was just pretending I'm asleep. I was like, oh, I definitely slept for like 4 hours, and then I like logged it on my Whoop, and it was like 1 hour and like 10 minutes detected. And I was like, great. That's what I thought. But then on the way back, I had a whole row again. So I was just really lucky both these flights. And I ended up sleeping like 5 hours, 16. So that was better than what I thought on the way back. But it also depends just how well rested I am or how tired I am. I think if I'm well rested, I kind of just am pretending I'm asleep or just resting my eyes and body. And then if I am really tired, like I was after Oslo, just with the quick turnaround and early morning flight, I actually did not sleep after the race. I purposely sort of stayed awake so then I would be adjusted to the US time zone already. So I went to the airport, was really tired. I got on the flight from Oslo to Amsterdam and I slept for like 45 minutes. It was only a 2 hour flight. And then got on the next flight and slept for like 5 hours and 20 minutes. So I feel like that was kind of the way to do it. If I'm really tired and I like plan things properly, I'm able to sleep. But everybody knows when you're sleeping on a plane, you're waking up, tossing and turning. It's never a deep sleep or like a really comfortable sleep. You just kind of manage what you can do. And the more sleep you can get, the better you'll be feeling when you get there.
I feel like a lot of people overthink time zones and just travel days in general. I think you've kind of proved that wrong. You've been racing really well recently. For
Thank
you,
you.
how much do you think time zones affect running and racing as well as like just travel days in general? And as you think ahead to Paris, is that a conversation you've had with your team or your coach or brand or
Mhm.
anything of like, I want to get ahead, I want to get there this far in advance, I want to do all these things?
I think it does depend. Time zones do have an impact on our body. And I think, it's just how well you are adapting to that and making sure that you're planning. As we can see, I do like to talk. So it's very easy when you get to meets to be distracted by, your friends and familiar faces and things like that. But at the same time, you need to remember that this is your job and you are held accountable to do that to your best ability. And I think for me, making sure that I sort of stick to the schedule that I would stick to at home. I am not very good at going to bed early. So for me, I tend to go to bed around like 11, 12 on the later end, but I do like to sleep in. So for me, I try and keep that as familiar as I can. And I think that's something that's really easy considering I go to bed late, whether I travel and things like that, is like being prepared that if I get in late, it's okay because I go to bed late at home, and just like making sure that when I am going to sleep, that I'm able to wind down, stay asleep, and get to sleep in the morning. I never really put pressure on myself to get up at 9 o'clock and go for a run as soon as I arrive somewhere. I sort of just make sure that sleep is my priority because that's my way of actually recovering and making sure that my body is prepared. So I'll just sleep in as much as I can, and then we'll go for a run whenever that is. So usually just get up, eat, and then go for a run, whatever time that is. But making sure that sleep is the priority. Again, hydration is really important when you're traveling, whether that's on the flight, when you get there, making sure that you're ticking those things off. And for me, I try and have some like either like tart cherry juice or like cranberry juice or things like that are really good for inflammation as well. Whether that's on the flight or whether I get somewhere, I will either like bring it, which I think helps. And then yeah, getting a massage, or at least if you're getting there late, and maybe for me, just the way that I deal with like travel fatigue and being the person that I am, I like to, not put that pressure on getting a run when I get there if it's really late. But if I don't run, then just making sure that I get a walk in and stretch the legs out before I get to bed. Sometimes it also helps just like clear your mind. I think it's, when you have a bad travel day or flights are delayed and things like that, is making sure that you keep things in perspective. Like that's the situation and you can't change that now. Like it's how you adapt and like make amends to help your body recover and prepare like moving forward, because you can't change what's already been done. So yeah, for me, it's just making sure that have a schedule for sleep, having, a fueling plan as well, whether that's, protein, hydration, things like that. And then just, yeah, keeping on a schedule.
You mentioned how you ran the pre-classic last weekend. For
Hmm.
those that don't know, maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think it is. I think it's the hardest diamond league to get into, or at least one of the hardest diamond leagues to get into, probably that in Monaco. And then we've also mentioned that you are going to the Olympics. You've been selected by Team Australia. Something you did mention, though, was that this was your first time running at Hayward and you didn't make the NCAA meet at all in college. And I'm sure a lot of listeners are like, what has gone on in the past few years that this girl has never made the NCAA meet, but she's going to the Olympics. What would you attribute recent growth to, and how full circle is it to say you're going to the Olympics after not ever even making an NCAA meet?
Honestly, I still can't really believe it. I think there's a lot of things that I still need to do in preparation to feel 100% prepared going to Olympics. I'm actually still trying to qualify in the 5K. Unfortunately, I got sick right before pre-classic, which was a great opportunity to run the standard. But I'm still really proud of myself for getting out there and competing. And running 15:03, it might not look that great on paper considering to what I ran earlier this season. That 14:57, 14:58 as well, and then yeah, hopefully getting that Olympic standard. But I think at the end of the day, for me, that was a bucket list race and something that I was really looking forward to. And I just knew that I wanted to get out there and give it a good crack. And I think, with 4 laps to go, when we were off the pace, I really tried to, pick things up and try and get back onto that time. Unfortunately, just my body wasn't ready for that. And I think right now, I'm still, in that phase of trying to get that 5K standard. So for me, as much as I've already qualified in the 10K, I think there's still a lot of pressure on me to try and attain that 5K standard. So yeah, I guess, having ticked off a few things off my bucket list this year, like already having qualified, running at pre-classic is just like taking things, step by step, and just enjoying the process and the journey. But at the same time, I think, you know, our team is still sort of making some decisions about, when we're going to go into Paris, in terms of like how far out. I am very much a homebody, so I'd like to stay in the US as much as I can and use that to my advantage that I am already going to Paris, that there is no need to spend more time in Europe than I have to. So I think we will leave it probably as late as possible. Discussions were originally around going out 4 weeks before, but I think for me, my preparations would actually be better being at home than being out in Europe for that long. I think I've done a decent amount of travel this year, being in Australia in December, then going back there in March, April for our trials and a couple of other races, and then being in Shanghai, and then to the US, and then to Oslo. I think I've done a lot of travel already, and I think the best thing that I can do going to the Olympics to prepare myself for the best races out there is definitely staying at home as long as I can. But I think it'll come down to being ready for that heat. I think Paris heat is going to be something that is going to shock a lot of athletes. I think one thing that I can use to my advantage is that I was training in Florida at Florida State for a couple of years, and I've been able to do that for so long. Baltimore is actually surprisingly hot, so when I get back there, adjusting my training so that maybe we are training in the peak heat, and getting ready for those sort of situations. But I think going to Paris maybe 3 weeks out is sort of what our plan is as of now. I'm not an altitude girly at the moment. Haven't really tried it at the peak of the season, I guess, going to races and things like that. So I don't really want to change what is working for me. I think staying at sea level is, my smartest decision, and just getting adapted to, heat training, and getting my body ready for that. I think a 10K in that heat in Paris is going to be brutal. So, and not only that, you just add to it that it's an Olympic final, makes it, kind of a double whammy. So I think, yeah, just being prepared and making the most of having already been selected and staying home as long as I can, I think will prepare me best.
I asked you a question in regards to like making the Olympics and the growth, and you talked to the 10K and making the 10K and running pre, but a lot of your answer was wanting to get the 5K standard and make the Olympics
Yes.
in the 5K. You have this kind of like savage killer mentality, it sounds like, where like you're like, I made the Olympics, but I'm not fully satisfied. I want the 5K too. Do you think that
Mhm.
attitude and mindset is what has gotten you this far in the sport, where most people who would make the Olympics, like they'd be thrilled and they'd talk about how much that means to them. And you're
Mhm.
focused on not just qualifying in one event, but two events. And then you talk about preparation and how you want to maximize it. It sounds like you're not just in Paris to participate, but you really want to compete. I think a lot of athletes wouldn't be like that. Do you think that's part of what makes you so good and has made you get this far?
I think it's really easy in this sport to, have those big goals. And for me, I guess I'm really lucky that I was able to achieve that goal running the Olympic standard in March this year and then being named on the team in April. So for me, as much as like everyone's like, you're going to the Olympics, I think it's not really real until I go and actually compete. as much as it's like I'm going to be an Olympian, it's like I'm not an Olympian yet. So I think, I'm so excited. I think a lot of that excitement sort of set in at the Olympic announcement after our national championships in April when we got the official boarding pass ticket. I think, it was really special. And like I had some of my family out there as well. And then I did race again the following weekend where my dad and my little sister flew down. So I think it was really exciting to be able to celebrate that with my family and just enjoy the season that we've had. I think for me, something that's like really kept me going, and I think, given me that mentality I've had is we've all had our ups and downs in this sport. We've seen it with everyone. And for me, one of the biggest downs in my career was obviously not making that NCAA championship. But I look back at my collegiate career and I was really fortunate that I achieved so many things that I had set out. And, I really celebrated those small wins along the way because I think celebrating the small wins along the way is like almost the most important part of the journey, no matter how far you get along that, big goal that you've set out. I think for me is, celebrating those big wins. And I think in my NCAA career, I set a bunch of collegiate records at Florida State for like our team records. And I think, celebrating those small wins and then, running an NCAA number 3 all time in the indoor 3K was like a really big highlight for me, my collegiate career, and was just like that realization of like, okay, like, wow, like I deserve to be here. And I think prior to that, I sort of felt that like imposter syndrome that like I wanted to be there, but like I wasn't really there. And I think seeing those small wins along the way, like, my first All American in cross country on our home course was really special. Being there at Florida State and having, Bremen and a bunch of other, teammates also become All American was a really special moment for me. And then, making that jump and running that Florida State school record in the 5K at the end of the year. And then making my first senior team, I guess, was that big step um, in that direction of like becoming a senior athlete. And I think, it took years of hard work. I think, I really struggled, my second year of college. I think I had a really great first year from like someone who was transitioning from being in Australia, coming over here and competing in the NCAA. I think it's a big shock to the system of like, wow, there is so much depth here. And like, making regionals for me, my first year was like, I felt like I had a really solid and like great first year at college. But I think for me, yeah, making that world indoor team my last year of college was really that step in the direction of like, this is the athlete I want to be and like this is where I am. And going there and competing with so many incredible athletes was just like very eye-opening. And I think, I kind of got shot out the back at the end of the race. I think for me, I was just like really happy to be there and was yeah, it was just an amazing experience. And I think from then on I've like really learned that, you don't want to just like get there, you want to be able to compete there. And I think celebrating those small wins of like every PB that I've made, whether it's a training PB, whether it's, a racing PB or whether it's winning a race. I think celebrating those things have been a big testament to like the consistency that I've had over a long period of time. And then making sure that, if I'm ticking off those small goals or, getting those wins and, ticking some of those small goals that I had off and celebrating those wins has really been a testament of like, creating this like big win at the end of like becoming an Olympian and becoming a national record holder and like winning my first national title and things like that. It's just, staying patient. And if I can tick off the small goals that I set out for myself, then hopefully I can achieve those big goals. And yeah, big thing is just like staying in your own lane because it's so easy to get, caught up in what everyone else is doing and compare like what I've ran with other people that were around that level and like some of the jumps that they've made. It's like everyone is a completely different athlete and you just need to, have the right team around you, support network, and yeah, focus on ticking off your small goals. And whether that's training goals, whether it's racing goals and things like that, I think over a long period of time, it can really pay off and just being confident in what you're doing and celebrating those small wins. And I'm really fortunate, that I have a great team around me that, always, we're always celebrating a win, whether it's, a racing win, whether it's a PB, whether it's a training PB. I think like making sure that we're, as a team and your support network is always celebrating those wins along the way because I think it's really important. And, as a professional athlete, it's sometimes, much harder to transition from a junior to a senior athlete or, being in the collegiate system to a professional athlete. I think, yeah, making sure that we're supporting each other and, yeah, creating a good environment and camaraderie to, support each other and lift each other up throughout the season, we can really achieve some big things. And yeah, we've definitely seen that as a team. Ellie Leather again running, that world indoor standard was really exciting. And, I've seen her work her ass off the last couple of years to get there in this season. She's continually run PBs. Same, we just had Lydia again run a season's best this past weekend. And I think, we're always, supporting each other and making sure that, each week we can be better as a team and as an individual and just, yeah, lifting everyone up. I think that's a testament to what we're doing out at Under Armour and supporting each other and making sure that we're enjoying the journey and process to get to where we are.
Speaking on Under Armour more specifically, I don't know if you were like one of the first wave of athletes to sign with them, maybe like second or third wave, but you're for sure earlier on in their kind of shift into running and really focusing on track and field and investing in really fast athletes like yourself. Can you speak to working with the brand itself, being one of the first athletes, and also being a part of like one of these first training groups where, if I talked to you 4 years ago, they weren't really on the map. And now it seems like every week one of the athletes is like killing it out of the park, even in St. Louis this past week, like Ben Veach won the pro mile at the Festival of Miles, things like that.
Yeah.
It's like Under Armour is just like popping off.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just having the backing of the brand and having a brand that believed in me because, as we said, I didn't make an NCAA national championship. So I feel like for me, it was just like finding the right fit and a team that wanted me to be a part of the team. Yeah, I was really thankful for Hannah taking a chance on me, Lara as well. Were very interested. And, Corey as well was also one of the coaches that actually originally recruited me until the coaching change of Lara being a female coach for our team. So, yeah, I guess I was really fortunate at the right time. Like I was looking for like a fit that was at sea level. That was one of my biggest things that I wanted was staying at sea level, finding a group and finding a brand that, was backing us as individuals and supporting us. I think I came in at a really good time where they were looking for an international athlete, potentially a 5K girl. And yeah, just fortunate enough that they took me on. At the time, we had 2 15 girls on the team, Ellie and Susan. So adding me was just like really fortunate and like good timing. And yeah, I was really excited about the opportunity of, help building the brand and being part of something new. I think as much as like everybody wants to be a part of that group that looks really great on paper or is like promoted like that. I think there's something really special to say about like taking that initiative and like being a part of a team that wants to build something. I think UA running is so new, and I had a couple of Australian friends that signed with Under Armour a few years ago, and unfortunately, yeah, they got let go. But I think at the same time, like we've seen a huge push in UA running as a whole in the last 4 years. As you said, it's just like very new. I think right now in the past 6 to 8 months, everyone's like Under Armour's on a tear, and I think that's a testament to the not just the athletes that are putting in the hard yards. I think it's a testament to the brand, whether that's our shoe department really pushing our shoe technology, our spikes our top tier. We have Neil and Katie making finals at Worlds last year. We had multiple qualifiers in that, in the steeple, myself in the 5K. We had national records across the board. I think one of the biggest weekends that I remember being a part of this season was in Boston. I think UA women literally swept every single event over one weekend at Boston, and we all know how competitive Boston is, and that like everyone goes there to run fast. I think it was a testament to the hard work that the brand has put in, hard work that our strength coaches like Kerry has put in, our coaches getting us ready, and also like trusting in us, the UA running marketing team being there and supporting us of like what our wants and needs are as a brand and as a team, and also trusting in us. I think yeah, across the board, it's not just the Baltimore distance group. I think it's the 800 group. We've seen PBs across the board. Festus Olympic qualifying the 800, like Wayne running 1430s at pre in the 5K. I think it's just a testament to the brand that we have everyone running PBs from 800 to Sharon in the marathon. Whether that's our road shoes, whether that's our spikes, whether it's our training shoes. I think UA running has just like made a really big push, and I think it's really exciting to be a part of something that wants to be better and wants to compete with those top brands. And I think we've shown now as athletes and as a brand that our products and what we're doing as a brand and team and athletes is something that a lot of people should want to look to and want to be a part of, because I think we're really building something special here at Under Armour, and I'm just really thankful for them taking taking a punt on me and just trusting me and wanting me to be a part of it. And I'm really happy that I can help be a part of the success. And yeah, it's something very exciting. And I'm just every weekend just looking at, and I feel like I see an Under Armour athlete win something, no matter where it is. And that's whether it's on a diamond league or whether it's a local meet, whether it's I think we're going to see just UA running like everywhere across the board, and you hopefully have as many Olympic qualifiers as we can. Um, but it's definitely something to be exciting to be a part of. And yeah, I'm just very thankful for the team, whether that comes from the coaching staff or whether it comes from like internally within the brand.
Speaking on the products and shoes themselves, I grew up on Under Armour. Like, that was my favorite brand. I think for when I was 4 or 5, I asked for an Under Armour sweatshirt for Christmas. I got it. I wore it until that thing didn't fit anymore. And then as I started to grow up and get more into the sport of running, like, they didn't have as many hardcore running shoes and products. And then
Mhm.
recently they've kind of made a resurgence, and seeing the teams form and the athletes like yourself run really fast. I've always wondered, like, oh man, I kind of want to try their shoes. And so like 2 months ago, I think I tried the shoes for the first time. And I'll be honest, like I was a little skeptical. And also I can say this because I'm completely unbiased. I wear like every brand's shoes, like everyone and their mother. You should see my
Mhm.
closet, like so many pairs of shoes. I can confidently state this. My favorite pair of trainers is the Under Armour Infinite Elites, I think are what they're called. Like,
There you go.
incredible shoe. And then I think the first time I put on the Velocity Elites, which is like the super shoe, like this,
Mhm.
I literally just went on like a 2 mile, what I thought was going to be a jog. Nope. Second mile was like 5:30. I was like, I can't not run fast in these things. Like, just ridiculous.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, I thought they would be good, but like, these legitimately might be my favorite trainers. These super shoes I might race in, like compared to any other brand. I'm kind of going on a rant here, but my point is, like, as someone who's not biased, I was shocked with how good Under Armour's products are. Can you speak to the being a part of like the product development and seeing how, I mean, you've been with the brand long enough to see different versions and stuff. How cool has
Mhm.
it been to be a part of the company? And also one final story I'll share in St. Louis. It was funny. I won't name their name, but New Balance NIL athlete, I think, saw like Ben Beach's like unreleased Under Armour super spikes or something. And he was like, he made a comment to me. He was like, man, like, how good do you think the Under Armour super spikes are? Like, I would race in those if I could. Like, they look fast. The kid was signed by New Balance, so it says a lot.
I have them right here, actually, the spikes. But I think, yeah, I mean, it's been really exciting to see the growth of the brand. Even version one of the spikes, which were not our super shoe spikes, but what I originally, signed on with the team using. And even back then, I still ran a big 5K PB and a 10K PB that year. I ran, I think I ran like 15:11 and 32:09 in the 10K. So I think even then I was, going all in on the brand and on the spikes as well. And I, was really, happy to just see like huge progress in the spikes that I was wearing. I think back then that was version one, and I was like, these spikes are great. Like, I really like them. Like, I'm running PBs. Like, I'm, my feet feel good. Like, I'm able to pull up really well after the race as well, which I think is important. Like, sometimes you might be able to put a shoe on, but you might race in it, and then the next day not be able to walk. So, I mean, that's like just goes to show like how like the shoe technology has changed. I think the original version of the shoes, yeah, I was able to race a 10K in them and like feel fine the next couple of days, and that was version one. And then now we've gone to the super shoes this past, I guess, I think the first time I got them was before my 10K national championship, so around December. Some of the other guys, there was only certain sizes of them that were released last year, so I think we saw like Neil, Katie, Casey, a couple of the guys wear version one of our super shoe spikes. And I mean, we saw the results then, and everyone was kind of speaking about these shoes. And I was everyone in UA internally, like athletes were like, we want these shoes, we want these shoes. And they like couldn't get them out to us quick enough. So eventually, yeah, we got my hands on them in December. And I mean, yeah, my PVs have jumped a lot. I'm not sure if that's the shoes or the training. Um, but at the same time, yeah, I think the shoes have come a long way from what they were. I didn't really, I feel like I was never really a shoe nerd as such. So in college, I was wearing, our college spikes at FSU, which were Nike, and I put these Under Armour spikes on, especially the super shoe ones. And I was like, oh my god, wow, these actually feel so much better than the Dragonflies that I was wearing at the time. I felt like really comfortable. They felt really fast. The flick on them as well. So I have version 1 and version 2 of the Super Shoe spikes right now, and like one of them is a little bit more aggressive than the other one. But I ran, PBs in all of them. I feel like they're really comfortable. They're coming out with a new version soon, I believe, like the end of this month. Well, I guess, yeah, the end of last month, early this month. So we should see a new version come in again, which I think will be released to the public. So people will be able to get their hands on them. But yeah, they're very comfortable. I definitely think the shoe team know what they're doing. It's very exciting to be part of it. Not only that, we've seen the development of our flats as well. We have a new flat coming out, which we love. Like some of our team have been wearing them for like road miles and things like that. So you probably have seen them out on the market, but they'll be coming out shortly. They're really good for our like track workouts and speed days. And then we also have the shoes that Sharon was wearing for the marathon, which I would wear for everything. I remember when I went home after I first signed with UA, I think I went home like that. I signed them in January and I went home for our trials in like March, April, my first year. So like a year ago now. And all my like running group that I run with back home were like, what are these UA shoes? Like, are they even good? And I was like, I swear by them. I was like, I wear these like for every single workout. And they're like, you wear those like super shoes for like all your track workouts? I was like, yeah, I can run like a tempo at like 5:15, 5:20 pace. And then I can go back on the track at the end of the workout and do a 200 and like 30. And I'm like, I wear them for everything. Like, I swear by them. Always really comfortable, and I've been able to like pull out really well from them, like workout after workout, which has been great. So I feel like now they've kind of covered the board in terms of like great trainers, and like recovery day shoes with both the Infinite Elite, Infinite Pro, and then also the marketers, which I love the marketers. I still wear them. They've actually discontinued them. They're like, I was like, please don't get rid of them. I really like them. And they ended up like shipping me like 10 boxes of them in my house. So they're still in the rotation. But yeah, I do love the new ones as well. But so that like 3 great training shoes, and then yeah, kind of got that road shoe, and then the spikes as well, super shoes. So they've kind of hit all the boxes, and I think we wouldn't be performing as well as we were as a team, across all of our UA athletes if we didn't have the necessary like shoes that we needed to be able to perform. So I think it really is a testament to our shoe team out in Portland, and Will as well has been Will Lear has been a huge part of kind of sharing that voice between the athletes to the shoe team as well, and making sure that they're making amends for individuals. And not only that, I think each individual, like we have this standard shoe, and then at the same time like they're making adjustments for what each individual athlete needs, and whether that's the plate moved backwards or the plate moved forwards, or like I think some of our steeplers originally were like, can we get like the sole in the shoe like glued down? So then they like sent them all back and got them glued in for them and things like that. So I think they're really listening to what we want as athletes and making amends, and I think we've really seen that with the results that have come from our team as well. So
Whether it's the brand itself or just like the team in general, I think Under Armour is like up and coming. And I think as
mhm.
human beings, maybe it's just me, like we kind of take pride in being an underdog or like joining an underdog. Like when we watch March Madness or watch college football or like watch Prefontaine Classic, like you kind of root for like the little guy and the newbie on the scene who like has a chance, but they're not quite there yet. Is it fun joining a company that is like up and coming and has so much momentum, as opposed to joining one of the people who were kind of in the big leagues? And also something I've learned from like the podcast is the up and comers, like the athletes have so much more say versus the companies that are established, where it's kind of like there's such a disconnect between the higher ups and the people who make decisions and the
Mhm.
athletes themselves. Whereas like with you, as you were talking about, like the testing, the feedback you give them, how they implement it, all that stuff, you're a lot more involved in the process. What's it like kind of joining an underdog company who is starting to make so much momentum in the space?
I think it kind of fits me personally. I feel like I'm the underdog in terms of the athlete that I've become and the athlete that I was as well. I think, being part of that underdog brand as well just kind of suits the personality of who I am. And I think what I've achieved. So I think for me, it's just like I've always like trusted in what I want to do. And I think the brand has always trusted in me and what I want to achieve and has supported that. And I feel like that's just been reciprocated by myself as well towards the brand. I think everyone has been a really big part of the success that we've had. I think maybe we didn't look like we were really competitive when we first started the team just because you didn't have the spikes and people were questioning like, having a team in Baltimore, like that's not, the Colorado or the Flagstaff. But if you look at every athlete that's been on the Baltimore team, every single athlete has PB. We had Adam Fogg get an international medal at World Cross Country. I think we've had PBs, we've had many, Olympic qualifiers, national qualifiers, and things like that. I think that underdog mentality has kind of fit a lot of people in the brand. And I think, we've done a really good job in the past year of just like letting the results speak for itself. And I think people are starting to see that. And people are starting to be like, wow, Under Armour is like becoming a brand. Like Under Armour is like really, really doing a good job. And I tend to see like a lot of like tweets trending, whether it's the Jan effect or things like that, or whether it's, Under Armour on the rise on like LinkedIn and things like that. I think, people are starting to like see what we've all been working really hard towards as a brand and as a group. I think, maybe we were the underdog and maybe people might still view us as that, but I think that perspective is really shifting. And, now people are wanting to wear our spikes and people are asking those questions like, when can we get them? And I think, at first that happened with a lot of other brands when they were sort of starting out with their super shoe spikes. And I think, now Under Armour is, just as good and if not more competitive than some of those other brands. And I think people will see that when these shoes actually come to market. I think, one of the really interesting things to me was I went to this like running store in Baltimore. They like invited me out for one of their like group runs. And I went out in there because they were doing like an Under Armour like shoe trial. Our shoe team was going out and like letting them test the shoes. And one of the guys, of course, went out and like absolutely rolled like a 4 mile run and went like 6 flat for the whole thing. He was like, I wasn't going to try the shoes and not actually like see how fast they can run. And he was just mind blown. Like I really was like, I want to hear your honest opinion of the shoes, like being, someone who's not a part of the brand. Like I want to know what you actually think. And he was like, well, normally I run in this brand, whatever it was, but he's like, I'm actually really shocked. Like I really want to, race a 10K in these and sort of see like what they can run in them. So I think that was really interesting. He's like, I put them on. He thought that was really comfortable. And I think that just goes to show that like once people are actually getting these shoes in their hand, their perspective is changing drastically. So I think it's just like a
Totally.
matter of, time and like word of mouth that once people are getting these shoes in their hands of like that shift changing. But I feel like we were the underdog, but I don't think we are anymore.
Yeah, claim that. Claim that. I love it. Okay, Lauren, let's go back in time. I want to give some context to who you are as an athlete today. And we have talked about kind of that underdog nature, not making NCAA meet to now professional athlete who will be representing her home country in the Olympics. But take me back in time to your start in the sport of running and what your first impressions of it were.
Um, I guess I've always run. I've always been very sporty. So I was a big tennis player, basketball. I did swimming. I did every single school sport possible. To much surprise, my first event that I actually qualified for at a state championships in high school was high jump. Despite being 5'2",
What?
um, yeah, I'm 5'2", I'm really short, but that was the first event that I qualified for at a state championships. And the only reason was because I just had to sign up. So me and my best friend signed up and they sent us to the state championships. And that was the first event I qualified for by default because we signed up, but I would still claim that. So yeah, I was just a very sporty kid as a junior. I never really focused on running. I did do running. My sister was also running at the time, also a big hockey player and tennis player as well. Hockey being field hockey, not ice hockey in Australia. um, but yeah, so I was doing a lot of sports, and then I just happened to have a lot of success very quickly in terms of our school sport, not at a high level. This was just like winning our school cross country and things like that. And the coach sort of approached me and was like, hey, do you want to come and train with our senior team? And this was like when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, I think. So they let me go to morning trainings with the seniors. I was just, doing easy runs with them and whatnot. It was nothing crazy. It was probably like 2 days a week. Then I think it was like my final year, grade 7 or grade 8, I qualified for state cross country. And then I was in a pretty small conference back home. So I was at a very academic and arts and science school. So it wasn't very sporty. So yeah, I was doing pretty well there. But for me, I was still the very sporty kid. I was doing like swimming every Friday. My mom was forcing me to play violin. which we love, which I don't do anymore. Don't tell anyone. I haven't done it for a very long time. And yeah, then eventually I made the decision to take running a little bit more seriously. I moved to a bit more of a sporty school out at Geelong Grammar School, which was also a boarding school. So, fun fact, I started boarding at the age of 12. So I've been a very independent person for a very long time. But I was only an hour away from home. So I'd see my family regularly and they would come out to a lot of my competitions and things like that. So I moved to a more sporty school in grade 7. Well, it was more like halfway through grade 8, sorry. And then I went on a camp for an entire year at Geelong Grammar School. They had this camp called Timber Top. And we go out and we do like hiking, we do skiing. Also, you have no phone, no technology for the entire year. You do get to
Wow.
come home at the end of each semester, like for like the holidays, which is like about 2 weeks. But the only way to contact your friends and family is writing letters. And if you need something, they'll like ship it out to you. You go camping, you do a whole bunch of like outdoor exercises. Whether that's like skiing, you get to like choose from a whole bunch of lists. So for me, I really like skiing, so I did skiing. And then so we run twice a week. We do like these runs called crossies, and like I think the first semester was like 3K, and then it went up to like 5K, then 7K, and then like 8K. And then on one of the other days of the week, I think it was like on a Sunday. This was so long ago, but the run would like build up at the end of the week. And at the end of the year, we ran this thing called the Timber Top Marathon, and it was about 29 kilometers. And in grade 9, that was kind of crazy now that I think about. But yeah, so we were like training while we we're on this camp this whole year. Everybody does it. It's like compulsory. And I actually won that Timber Top Marathon, which was like quite a big deal. Craig Mottram, our Australian runner, also went to Timber Top. So it was like pretty prestigious. Prince Charles, who also is now the king, went to this camp for the whole year too. So
Name dropping,
um,
Lauren. Dang.
yeah, that's just how it is. So yeah, I went on this camp thing for the whole year as part of our school, Geelong Grammar. And then when I came back from that camp after grade 9, in grade 10, that was when I actually started just running. So that first semester in grade 10, I was still doing tennis and running. And then after that first semester, they were like, you can just do summer athletics and track and field for the whole year. So by then, I was making state championships and things like that. I never really, I think I was like medaling at states, but I was making nationals and I wasn't really the star of the show. But my final year of school, I had some lofty goals in running, despite being relatively new to it. I had a great coach who was coaching a professional group. So he was also the school coach. And he really took me under his wing and, developed me as an athlete. And I owe a huge amount of my career to him as well, because without him, I definitely wouldn't be where I am. I also would have never got the opportunity to go to America. So, some of those things, were a testament to, the coach, developing me as the athlete I am, and, making sure I wasn't overtraining or anything. So I would go down to Melbourne, to the city, twice a week and train with a professional group. And then, yeah, eventually, developed into kind of going to where I am now. But that final year of school, I ended up making 3 Australian teams. So for me, I feel like my career was relatively very quick. Like I didn't do little athletics, which is a very common thing back in Australia. I was very new to the sport. So that final year, I had some big goals of making that World Under 20 team. And I really want to make it in both the 15 and the 3K. And, fortunately for me, I decided that that was what I wanted to do. And everything I did was targeted towards making those teams. And I put my head down, and as much as on paper, my times were well off those qualifiers, I assure you. I think I'd run like 9:55 and the qualifier was like 9:30. And I think the 1500 qualifier was like 4:22 and my paper was like 4:32. So on paper, I was definitely not the star that was going to go in, but I put my mind to it, had a coach that supported those goals, and we were able to achieve both those things. So I ended up booking my first ticket. I was actually the first person to book my ticket to that World Under 20 team in the 3K, winning the race, and then also running the time in that same race as well. So for me, I think things really changed really quickly. That sort of opened my eyes to coming to America on a collegiate scholarship. I met a bunch of coaches over there, and I ran a PB at World Juniors as well, which was, kind of the cherry on the top of making that Australian team as well. And yeah, I just had a blast. I think I learned so many things looking up to the other athletes that were on that team. And then from there, I made the decision to go to college in 2017. And then I did 2 years at Villanova, transferred to Florida State and did 3 years there. despite kind of having COVID in the middle of all that, I did spend a decent amount of time during COVID. And then after COVID, I think when I came back to FSU, I really made a big jump in my career. And that was sort of where I touched on what I've kind of achieved. And I felt like that was when I sort of had that realization of like, wow, okay, like maybe I was that kind of junior athlete like very early on, as much as like I wasn't that star early on in my junior career. I feel like I kind of made it that final year with, making those 3 Australian teams. And then I think, yeah, when I came back to college after COVID, that was sort of when I was like, wow, like I really have bridged this gap from being a junior athlete to a senior athlete. And I was just like really enjoying it. I was having a great time, having a lot of success. I think not only that, I think just the team at FSU, I had some great friends that were really supportive of what I wanted to achieve. Coach Bremen as well was, very much on board. I think, we had a bit of a tough time when Coach Kelly left at FSU. And I think, Bremen really took that under his wing and helped supported a lot of us athletes that were on our final year and making sure that we were able to achieve what we wanted. And I think, it's a testament to like the team and the support network that we had and the success that we wanted. And that we also just like had a really good time and enjoyed our time there as well. I think, I love Florida State and I would love, as many people that I can get out there, like all the Aussies. I'm like, if they reach out and they're like, oh, what do you think of Florida State? I'm like, you have to go. Like it was some of my favorite years. I enjoyed it. I had a great time. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of success there as well. If you take running away, I think I still would have been a very, happy athlete and individual being out at FSU. So I really enjoyed my time there. But I think, that's for me. I also had some injuries throughout my career that, put me out. I had some really bad IT band syndrome right before COVID hit. And I think COVID was a blessing in disguise, which allowed me to kind of get that right. And then I was able to make a really slow build up. And I think that's where I really saw a lot of my success come from, was that I was able to take X amount of time off. I think it ended up being like almost 5-6 months. And then was able to take almost like 11 to 12 months of just a really slow build up, get my mileage back up to the highest it had ever been, which was around like 70 miles, and then just continually stayed around there. And I think that's, last couple of years of like being healthy as just, kind of laid the groundwork for what we've achieved. And I think the biggest thing for me in the sport is consistency. And I think, we've really seen that consistency pay off over a long period of time now.
You talked a lot about your time at Florida State there. Completely random question, but I, for whatever random reason, had nothing to do with talking to you today. Listen, I think I was sending it to someone. So random. Anyways, I was listening to the FSU War Chant. What's your take on this song? Were you sick of it by the end of your 3 years there? I don't know how often you went to football
No.
games, but
No, I really liked it. I mean, I think it's very fitting. You have to be at a game to realize like just the atmosphere that it creates. And I think, yeah, FSU does a really good job of, filling the stadiums, and like the student section absolutely goes crazy. Also, when they have, like at the start of the game, they have like the, like Seminole and things like that,
mhm.
like Light the Flame and things like that, I think was really cool. So yeah, definitely not sick of it. I would definitely go back if I got a chance. World Cross Country is in Tallahassee next year, so maybe I'll hit up a game and hopefully make that team as well. So
That'd be
we'll see.
so
But yeah,
cool. So full
mhm.
circle. Yeah,
Yes.
super cool. Lauren, one final serious question for you to wrap up our conversation today. For those who have listened to our conversation and are inspired by you and all that you've accomplished, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of listeners who are inspired by your progression in the sport and all the growth that you've experienced over the past few years, what would be the final takeaway message you want to leave with our audience today?
I feel like one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I think that I always carry throughout my career, 3 things of advice: be patient, stay consistent, celebrate the small wins, and enjoy the process. I think those are the biggest 4 things that I try and, kind of focus on, because as an individual, it's really being an individual sport, it's really easy to, put so much weight on your shoulders. But I think if you're, staying consistent, doing the small things, enjoying the process, and staying patient, I think you'll see the success. And I think not only that, I think those are some of the things that I really learned in some of those team sports that I did when I was younger. I really enjoyed, having, those team sport experiences. And I think that's, one of my coaches when I was younger on the basketball team just said like, you need to trust the process, but you also need to be consistent. And I think those two kind of come hand in hand. So that's like probably my biggest advice for, any other runner or any other athlete, individual. I think if you take away those things, if you take away sport, I think whatever your job or hobby is, if you're consistent in it and if you're staying patient and you're enjoying the process and celebrating the small wins, I think you'll see success. And I think you'll also enjoy it. And maybe your idea of success might also change because success is different for everybody. And I think, my idea of success has also, changed a lot. I think this year I had very different expectations. It's crazy to me because I have like a list of goals that I have written down. And my biggest goal at the top was 14:52 for the 5K. And that's something that I'm still working towards. But I think the most ironic thing is that for the 10K, I wrote 31:45, which was, my goal was to break 32. I didn't really see myself as a 10K runner, but I just enjoyed the process. And my coach was like, I think you can run really well in this 10K. And I went out there just like wanting to have
Didn't you
fun,
run
enjoy it, and just
30:35 or something crazy?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
run 30,
what?
35, and I think the biggest thing was like enjoying the process, like trusting it, staying consistent with my training, what I want to do, and having fun. And I think that's like maybe why I ran 30, 35 and like well and truly demoralized that goal that I wrote down. Whereas I think I put so much pressure on running 14:52 and like, maybe I didn't listen to those four things of advice and like maybe that's why, you know what I mean? I put all this pressure on that 14:52 rather than just like enjoying each race and like trying to win and trying to be consistent and just have fun. I think that's like maybe why I saw so much success in the 10K because I like really trusted those four things of advice. And I think as an athlete, as much as those are more my four things of advice, we can always do better at listening to our own advice as well. So I think that's a big thing. It's just like, showing, what's happened with me in my journey and like how I've used those four things of advice to achieve the success that I've had.
Lauren, final question for you. The question I ask every guest on every single episode. If you had Gordon
Yes.
Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Oh gosh, what I should make for him? I was gonna be like, what should he make for me?
No, you're the chef. You're the chef.
Um, I love Mediterranean food, so I would probably make like I've been on a big Mediterranean theme, so I learned how to make tzatziki from scratch. I'm still haven't had a chance. I've been on the road too much to try making pita from scratch, but I have learned how to make pizza from scratch. So I feel like it can't be that difficult. So I would attempt the pita from scratch, tzatziki from scratch, Greek salad, and like flank steak. So you can like fill up your
Dang,
pita
you know your stuff.
and
I've been to
feta.
Mediterranean restaurants and this is all on the menu. So I can
Yes,
confirm you
and
know your
some
stuff.
hummus.
There you
Yes.
go. It's not Mediterranean if there's not hummus.
But
Lauren,
yeah,
really appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing your story and talking Under Armour and Paris and all that fun stuff. Keep crushing it. Excited to see all the things you'll accomplish in 2024 and beyond and how many more races you'll PR by, beat your goal by a minute and a half. I'm super excited to
we'll
see it all.
try.
Thank you.
We'll try. Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat and get to know more about you as well.